Who do we need to talk to about these Sunday night races? It's not nearly as fun watching knowing that I can't get absolutely hammered and sleep it off the next day. I mean, I could, but I can't really call into work. Also, TJ, you don't suck.
Oh, was that TJ?
That was TJ.
The one thing I seen off the frontstretch.com there had an interesting stat. This is the first back-to-back shortened races since 2003.
Wow.
And that lends itself to Sunday night races. You know, we got shut down for darkness basically last week, and this week was unfortunately weather, and you're not going to keep us there all night because it's already, I don't know. It was
I
10
wanted you
o'clock
guys to stay there all night.
I'm sure you did.
Did you care if they had to stay all night, Kip?
He cared. He cared more than you did. I'm sure about it.
I cared, right? So,
But do you think that having the night races obviously broadcast has something to do with it, which we talk about a lot? But
I mean, it was hot last year in Atlanta.
I was just going to say is all of the races that are now night races, like Nashville and Atlanta, I mean, even Chicago is really hot. Do you think that has to do with it, or have you been involved in that process where they're saying, like, you know, we're making it safer by having night races?
well, it's July, so it's
Yep.
going to be hot, right? I mean, and we've had hot races before. I think that, broadcast certainly has a say in it, but all the stakeholders do. So, I mean, one thing I'll give Ben Kennedy credit for, when we've watched Ben rise through the company, both right after he got out of the driver's seat and all the way up to where he is today. Ben is working his tail off to make sure that the schedule is more diverse than it's ever been, and it's going to be more. I don't know how you say this, but more appealing to everyone, right? So you're always going to have folks that aren't going to be happy with certain things that you do or certain decisions that you make. But having that race, the national race being late, the late afternoon Chicago, they'll probably think about that again because your window there with no lights, it's a real challenge. But the later times or start time at Atlanta, a lot probably has to do with the heat of the day. But a big thing too is making sure we're putting eyeballs on it, whether they're sitting there at the track or if they are watching it on TV. And I know there has to be a recovery day. I get that, depending on how much adult beverage that you do consume. But a lot of the folks that were there at the track, they're planning for that. And if you're watching the race at home, plan for that too. If you got to take a half day the next day, then I guess that's what you just need to do.
I mean, Brett drank a case of wine last night.
It wasn't a case; it was 4 bottles. I don't know how many bottles are in a case. It might have been a case.
4.
So here's my thing. I grew up a NASCAR diehard fan. I pulled for Dale Earnhardt over Michael Jordan. Right? I absolutely love racing.
Hey, easy.
Do I missed the 12:30 starts? Yes, but let me ask you something. You're a sports nut. When is the biggest NFL game played on Sunday? Is it the 1 o'clock games? Is it the 4 o'clock games? No,
it's Monday
it's
night,
not.
Right?
It's the freaking on Sunday. Well, that's true too. But it's the Sunday night game. NBC has that big Sunday night game. ESPN on Monday, they don't play it at freaking 5:30.
And when you get later in the year, and they're actually doing it for Thursday this year, when you get later in the year, they will flex games to Monday night or Sunday night, I should say. They'll if there is a playoff matchup or a game that has playoff implications during the day, they'll move it to that Sunday night game the week before. So
I mean the Sunday, and I'm getting at the Sunday ratings in Chicago were phenomenal.
Yeah,
obviously, duh. But I think a lot of that helps that it started later and went later, and here we are again starting later and go late. I really hope the ratings come out today, tomorrow. And I hope they're over 3 million. And if they are, I think unfortunately NASCAR employees are going to just have, the industry is going to have to embrace the fact that the ratings are going to be better at night, and we have to race when the ratings are going to be at their highest point. Otherwise, the sponsorships are devalued, right?
I would say this too. I would almost venture to bet that the same person that's complaining about a late start time on Sunday is the same person that's going to say we need to be racing midweek at night.
Yeah,
we tried that.
Well,
guess what?
I know it did.
Yeah,
but
the ratings suck.
But I'm really passionate about what fans think about how the sport is managed and whatnot. But it does amaze me sometimes that some of the things that are complained about, and I think that the late start time on Sunday, I asked you guys when we walked in here what time that y'all got back, and so I get it. It makes for a late trip home, or it makes for a really tough Monday. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are the motorsports industry is being seen by as many folks as we can.
I think two things you have to watch out for with this is, and we've seen it. I saw a chart. I wish I could pull it up now. I think it was a Nashville race that they were breaking down, and it was obviously a great audience. And we've heard this in the past. Me and Brett have talked to people that said every hour you move back closer to prime time is worth about 5% of audience, pick increase.
Thanks to Jeff Burton, we know that.
Yeah. So the problem is you have to also watch about how late you run, I think, because there was a chart that I watched, I think it was after Nashville, where we had a really good audience, but then the late run, it starts to run into 10, 11 o'clock at night, and the audience starts to crash out because obviously they're going to bed. And I've seen a lot of people talk about, well, if you're going to run at night, run Saturday night. Well, we've seen that in the past, and the audience isn't there. And I remember growing up as a kid, I was at the racetrack my whole life, and I remember hating the Saturday night races because I was at Riverhead Raceway watching my dad race, and it's like, oh, well, I'm going to miss that race. And that's what you want to promote local short track racing. That's where a lot of our audience is going to be on Saturday night, is at their local short track watching their races. Right. So that hurts our audience. So I think that it's been a home run. Nashville's numbers were up. Chicago was through the roof. You're going to see this one probably come in over 3 million, where last year I think it was like 2.5, 2.6, something like that.
And from an in-person attendance, it looked like the crowd was really good last night too.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you run a Sunday night race, do you not try to force a 500 miler on a Sunday night?
That's why I tweeted what I tweeted yesterday, man. I love that Atlanta 300-mile race, and I did it. Sorry, you can unblock me. After the Xfinity Series race, I literally was sitting there, and I was like, this is the best length we could have for this style of racetrack and a plate drafting style racetrack. And I'm going to say one more thing, and I'll hush. I think the best thing for NASCAR to happen as it pertains to the Chicago street race is for that mayor to say don't come back. Because when I look at L.A., I was there for the first year in L.A., the buzz was enormous, was it not? Yeah. The second year, I think it wasn't, and I wasn't there, but going off the industry stuff, I heard it wasn't quite what it was year one. If we have the opportunity to put this street race on tour, man, I love that idea. I love us taking it to new cities, because there are a lot of amazing cities in America that we aren't close to. Yeah. And this gives us an opportunity to do that.
I think to your point and to what you just asked, TJ, that lends itself to, that can cover both. The race doesn't need to be 400 miles. We can start a race at 7, and if we run 3 hours, you're done by 10, and you don't see that fall off at the back half of 10 to 11 o'clock where people are just going to bed. They got to go to work on Monday.
Sunday night race.
Sunday night race where you shorten the distance and make it a 2.5, 3 hour race, I think is a phenomenal idea.
I love to watch the truck series. I love to watch it. It drives me bonkers when they start at 9 o'clock East Coast time.
Yeah. I do think
I can't do it.
To touch on Brett's point, I think Chicago deserves a nice, hopefully if they go there, hopefully the weather's nice, because I would have loved to seen the vibe at the track that day, let all the events go off that should have happened.
Everything, right? All the concerts.
Everything.
I think we're going back. I think it's just going to cost NASCAR
I think you would have enjoyed it.
More money.
I think you should go, Brett, because I think you would have enjoyed it.
Sign me up.